Hey there. Today we've got a solar eclipse in the sign of Leo. It's the first eclipse in Leo. The eclipse is always moving, right? And they're always happening in the polar signs, the sister signs. Now Aquarius and Leo are activated. But the lunar eclipse in 2 weeks will still be in Pisces, so we're kind of like on the in-between point. Eclipses in and of themselves are a huge thing anyhow, of course, and a solar eclipse in the sign of Leo, ruled by the sun, of course, just deepens the symbolism and energetic imprint that the Leo quality gets here. An interesting and noteworthy thing to point out, though, is that the eclipse happens on the south node, not on the north node. When you think about a solar eclipse being kind of like a supercharged new moon, the light of the sun gets dimmed completely and then gets turned on completely again, kind of mimicking the solar path's journey from summer solstice to winter solstice to summer solstice again. So from peak brightness to peak darkness to peak brightness again, just in a matter of a few minutes or an hour. And that also gives us so many clues and understandings about what eclipses are for. They are huge energetic resets. They are the moments when the sun, the moon, and the earth perfectly align with each other. And so they carry this very strong fated destiny points. There's often a very strong focal kind of vortex energy in regards to what we could call karma, for better or worse. Eclipses can move things out of our lives very quickly, but they can also move things into our lives very quickly. Things that we normally thought would take ages or would not happen at all, suddenly making a switch, right? So eclipses are these intense portals. And in Leo, it's so much about the king, right? In ancient times, there would even be a fake king installed for the moment of the eclipse, because especially a solar eclipse, even more in the sign of Leo, which deals with rulers and royalty, would often also signify the actual death, the passing away, the darkness of a king or a solar figure. So we might even see like remnants of this in the social field right now. Big names, actors, politicians, people that were bright, luminous figures passing suddenly, or conversely, kind of their karma catching up to them and the darkness coming out. That's the other thing with eclipses. Even though it's a really potent new moon, there's also an element of darkness and release of that darkness. And this is where the south node comes in. Because with the north node, which is now in Aquarius and points us towards community, finding out that in our individuality and uniqueness, we're all equal. Nobody is higher or lower, and that we're all part of this interwoven web of life that wants and needs to form a greater sense of coherence in the collective field, implying what the South Node in Leo is about, releasing ego identification, releasing identification with old personality acts or masks that we maybe even believed ourselves, but in that way also maybe blocked our own heart, the true source of our light, our soul, our joy. To the degree that we play an act, which at first can be very playful, right? And fake it till you make it is strong medicine, it's strong magic. But the moment we believe an act that is unnatural and not authentic just because it gives us the Leo kind of applause, attention, admiration, and not just from others, but maybe even from ourselves, where and how we want to see ourselves in the best possible light: bright, luminous, successful, ambitious, driven. The South Node in Leo says release that identification, release where and how you yourself played a mask and identity, or were striving maybe to form a sense of self built on luminosity, built on a sense of uniqueness that is even more unique than others, right? Where again, the North Node medicine in Aquarius is really pointing us to, hey, everybody's a unique, special, amazing snowflake, but yeah, so is everybody. You're the most unique person ever, and so is everybody else. So the South Node Leo eclipse is about releasing ego identification, releasing unconscious mask, releasing where and how we play an act that is not completely natural or not completely coming from the heart. And in that way, maybe also helping us release a lot that was burdening our heart, that we carried around and that we could not express. Leo and Aquarius is so much about authenticity and authentic relating and authentic freedom to be completely authentically ourselves. But it's such a tricky thing in the human society when we want to be seen in a special way. We want to be appreciated and validated for who we are. And so the play and the joy that is also a Leo quality can so easily be just a slippery slope that we fall down and suddenly we, without even realizing it, have been performing. Especially more with these kinds of devices and algorithm and whatever. We don't even need to talk about this, I think. So you will also see over the next 1.5 years all of these themes of releasing that, but also fake hierarchies, fake popularity, seeing or elevating somebody else above you, or thinking they are bright, luminous, they are special, they are this big artist or this big whatever, this big leader, and seeing like, oh no, human after all. Very key Aquarius lesson, right? And that we're all ideally coming and living from our heart, in an ideal world at least. The other side, of course, is that it's a south node it's a south node solar eclipse in the sign of Leo. Jupiter is also now in Leo, so this is something I also briefly still want to address. But of course, we're also in a year where Saturn is in Aries, and we're talking about the karma, the lessons of fire, the fire element, fire, heat, intensity. But also, what is fire psychologically? It's ambition, it's drive, it's spirit, but maybe also spirit that overtakes. In the myth of Hercules, who kind of created the founding myth, one of the main founding myths of the constellation of the zodiac sign of Leo, Hercules slays the lion that was said to be invincible, but then he takes on the hide of the lion. And then from then on, you basically only see Hercules wearing this pelt, the hide of the lion, which made him invisible, but it also showed the archetype overtook him. The self, as in capital self, the heart-centered soul, was overtaken by this archetypal drive, the hunger, the desire, the lust, the greed, the ambition that can also be there in our more primal nature, without vilifying that or saying that that is something that we should get away from. No, we have to incorporate that part, the lustful, desireful nature of our psyche, of our heart, into ourselves. But when it takes us over, it creates an identity, and then we, the true self, gets lost in that. And so we're also talking about fire collectively, right? Fire is drive, fire is aggression, fire is heat. Craziest heat waves here in Europe, fires everywhere, right? So the collective intensity of fire, and how do we deal with so much fire, with so much energy, which ultimately fire transforms, fire alchemizes, fire purifies, just like a solar eclipse. The eclipses are the dragon points. Here there be dragon. We are in the territory of the dragon right now. We're always in eclipse season, but especially a south node eclipse in Leo, just like where is the release of fire, of intensity, bringing up, yes, a lot of potential to purify things, to alchemize and transform them. Fire transforms like no other element does, but can also overwhelm. It can also be a wildfire and just take over the countryside, take over the collective psyche, take over the whatever protest movement here or the ideological movement there, right? And that's the other side. Jupiter expands whatever it's in. And Jupiter is in Leo, and Jupiter brings abundance and luck and joy and blessings, and it helps us find deeper meaning of life. So there's also this kind of paradoxical energy about this Leo eclipse, or the next year in general, because Jupiter is in Leo for the next year, but the South Node is also in Leo. So the South Node implying we're releasing Leo processes, Leo kind of behaviors that are not serving us any longer, that are cutting us off from our true heart, our true authentic joy, our true pure presence with life. But at the same time, that can open up another side, Jupiter in Leo, a blessing, an opportunity, an ability to find a greater sense of connection and connectiveness to the primal life force, to the force of fire and joy and heart and the creative impulse, without identification with it, seeing like we are just a channel, ideally our sense of self, our heart, our human personality. Hi, my name is Maximilian, is ideally, and that's a great work that we're all engaged in, more or less, consciously or unconsciously, can become a channel for this higher light of the soul, the higher light of the sun, but not identifying with it. So many creative artists and amazing artists and whatever math geniuses and Nikola Tesla and whatever, they would all say, this didn't come from me. This is like, it came through me. I was whatever. Now we use the word channeling a lot, but it came through us. But we're not identifying and trying to grab hold of and claiming like, yeah, this is my creative impulse, this is my artwork, this is my mathematical genius, my brain that figured it out, right? This leads to more separation and individuation in the lower sense of the word, and disconnection, which ultimately the North Node in Aquarius, we all long for community. We long to be part of the human web of life, right? But the South Node in Leo also showing like where and how has this collective wave dynamic of over-identification and thus over-individualization cut us off from the heart of life, from the heart of joy, from the heart of meaning, of what it means to feel alive, and feeling disconnected because we're wanting to be seen as more successful or more full of whatever creative fire because we want to claim it, but actually we're cutting off our own foot, right? Trying to walk faster and now we're cutting off our own foot. I don't know if that metaphor works, it's clunky, but you get the point, I think. So this South Node eclipse in Leo shows so much like, hey, here's a release of Leo energy, but they can also give so much generative life force that actually helps to gestate a deeper connectivity to life and joy and creative impulse again. But yeah, it means we have to work with a lot of fire these days. Last point, a few interesting aspects happening. Mars is now in Cancer, so hopefully countering with some water energy, some calming, nourishing, softening, sweet water energy, all of this fire in the skies. And Venus just yesterday was exactly opposite Neptune and Aries. And I think that also is still part of this. Venus is now at her home sign in Libra, which was opposite Neptune at early Aries. Neptune and Aries and Venus and Libra, of course, so much about relationship dynamics, relationship to self, Aries, and to others, Libra. And Neptune's lower side can show disappointment, disillusionment, confusion, projection in regards to relationship, but its higher side can show, hey, with this eclipse and this kind of like fated karmic vortex that eclipses open up, meeting deep soul connections, reconnecting, rekindling a fire, or also finding Neptune, forgiveness, compassion, grace, surrender into old relationship dynamics. But it also shows us up, it confronts us with this mirror dynamic of like, the more we can release a separate sense of self-identity where we over-identify and in that way actually just create more separation, the more we can release that. And that is also Neptune and Neptune and Aries now collectively, right? Releasing our sense of self-identification so that actually we can become part of the greater Neptune ocean and flow of life. And Venus now activating that Neptune by opposition so strong these last couple of days also shows there's so much about this, about how all of these dynamics play out in the very, very personal one-on-one or maybe even romantic field. Because with Venus and Neptune, there's often so much romantic projection and longing and confusion and disappointment, right? Who am I when you are you? And yeah, there's something about release of identity so that actually soul and heart can come through much more. I think that's enough for now. Yeah, hope that gave you something. Hope you're sailing through this eclipse portal in a good and beautiful way. One last thing to remember is eclipses might bring very strong events exactly on that day, exactly today or tomorrow or whatever. But if they activate something in your chart specifically, and this eclipse is on 20 degrees of Leo, so if you got 20 degrees Leo strong, anything around 20 degrees, or 20 degrees of Aquarius, or something around 20 degrees of especially Scorpio and Taurus, the two signs that are in a square to that point in Leo, this eclipse will really activate you and your life. But that does not necessarily mean that the events will unfold today. But there is also, just like this major new moon energy, there's a really potent and deep seeding in the psyche, in our unconscious, in our own soul, that usually, especially over the first year of the energy moving outward from the eclipse point, but if you move out even further and try to see even more subtly, these eclipse energies, they really last and impact our life in a major way for 4 years. So even if nothing crazy happens for you today or the next days, but it still activates your chart in a profound way, you can rest assured that this moment is a big seeding moment, right? There's a release and a seeding with this new moon at the same time. So yeah, hope that gave you something. Hope you're surviving the heat wherever you might be, and that you learn to work and walk with this transformative power of fire in a way that is life affirming and not destroying. Yeah, sending much love. Bye bye.